Hi everybody and welcome back to our Beginner's Guide to Photography. In episode 4 this week we're going to be looking at shutter speeds, and I'm joined again by my daughter Amelia. Say hi, Amelia.
Hi.
And every week Amelia takes up the challenge of using her new skills to take a picture, and this week it's going to be shutter speed. So Amelia, what have you got planned for us?
Bursting a water balloon above your head.
Say again, bursting a water balloon above my head?
Yep.
Why not your head?
I don't want to get wet.
Ah, right, okay. Well, maybe we could sort of do maybe a ball or bouncing, or a tennis racket, or maybe some dad dancing, yeah?
Definitely not the dad dancing. It's got to be the water balloon.
Oh, great. Well, stay tuned for that treat later on. But for right now, let's have a look back at last week and do a quick recap on aperture. So last week we looked at aperture, and what we discovered is that it's what many photographers use to control their depth of field, or how much is in focus. A small f number is known as an f-stop, or a larger hole size, which gives us a shallow depth of field. Great for things like portraits when you'd like to blur out that background. A larger f number, which gives us a smaller hole, gives us a deeper depth of field, which is brilliant for things like landscapes. Now the aperture can be controlled on the camera in both aperture priority mode and full manual. Time to move on now and look at the next part of our journey through the camera as the light goes through the aperture and then hits the shutter. An easy way to think of the shutter is like a blind in front of your window, which opens and closes at different speeds. Here on this old film camera we can actually see a shutter opening and closing. And this is no different than on a modern digital camera. But of course, instead of a film behind the shutter, we can see the actual sensor. Now, just like the aperture, there is a scale involved to measure how quickly or slowly the shutter opens and closes. Rather than f-stops, this time it's a little bit easier. It's just fractions of time. We start here with very fast shutter speeds, 8,000th of a second and 4,000th of a second, and so on and so on. It goes right down here until you get to 30 whole seconds. Now remember last week when we talked about light being measured in stops, there were full stops of light and third stops of light. Shutter speeds get measured in the same way. Here between 1/8,000th of a second and 4,000th of a second is one full stop of light. And in between each of those full stops we can see those third stops. Unlike aperture, where your settings were limited by the type of lens that you have, with shutter speeds you have a lot more to play around with. In fact, the scale keeps going and going, right down to the bottom here, where you'll find this little inch symbol, which stands for partial or full seconds. So how do you change your shutter? Well, on your camera's main control wheel on the top, which looks something like this, you will need to move from automatic, or if you've been playing around with aperture mode, then you need to move it from A all the way around to S for shutter, and for Canon cameras, TV, which actually stands for time value. Once you've done this, your camera is set to shutter priority. Your camera will look after everything else for you and try and balance the other options it has to give you a reasonable exposure, whilst the shutter speed you select is your priority. You would change your shutter using the selector wheel that sits next to either your forefinger at the front or the wheel at the back of your camera, near your thumb. Just like aperture, shutter speeds are not just used to balance exposure, they are in fact used for creative effect. Fast shutter speeds freeze any moving action, very useful for wildlife and sports photographers who of course need to freeze the action of fast moving people or animals in action. Slower shutter speeds can be used for both creative and artistic effects. They are a big hit with landscape photographers who love to get movement in water and skies. Here in these two images you can see the impact and difference of slowing down your shutter speed, the image changing and communicating a very different story. So it's worth pointing out that when you're using a slower shutter speed, and I'm going to bring up that diagram again for you so you can see it, anything in the orange here is what's considered a slower shutter speed for most cameras and for most people. And I say most people because it depends on how steady you can hold your camera, and that obviously varies from person to person. Now, the other thing to say is that, of course, slower shutter speeds are great for slowing things down that you're looking at, but also it actually has an impact that if you are moving, that wobble can make your picture look really, really blurry and not particularly nice. So there is a way around this, and of course it's stabilizing your camera. And one of the great ways you can do this, of course, is with a tripod. Especially if you're a landscape photographer, we looked at how you get sort of motion in water and skies. Well, having your camera on a tripod will allow you to do that for things that are moving, but everything that's still, like the foreground, the grass, the trees, the rocks, all those things are still and they will stay still, whereas everything that's moving will look beautiful. Now, you don't have to buy an expensive, really big tripod. You can buy even small ones like this. Do you like that one, Amelia?
Yeah.
And you can put that on the ground or on a table. These are very, very versatile, of course, because you can take them with you when you're traveling. Okay, so a great way to actually use slow shutter speeds is with a tripod. And actually a lot of people, when they first try shutter priority and use a slower shutter speed, fall over and they think, oh, that doesn't really work very well, because they get that sort of blurry result because they've not stabilized their camera. So give that a try. Now, another technique with shutter speeds is something called a pan shot, and I've got a photograph coming up on screen now. This is by my good friend Pete, who is our motorsports photographer for the Jessops Academy, and who runs courses and teaches this technique all the time. And you might have noticed that the background is all blurry on this picture, but the racing car, or i.e. the foreground, is all nice and sharp, and that's of course exactly the result that you want. Now, it's tempting to think that this picture is taken with a faster shutter speed, but it's actually not. It will be a medium to slow shutter speed. And the motion blur in the background that's achieved is through this technique called panning. So Amelia is going to demonstrate a panning technique now. So she's going to put it to her eye, and she's going to actually pretend that she's tracking a moving object. It might be a racing car, it might be a horse. That's very good. Start again at that end then, Amelia, and then work your way back. So the racing car or the horse is moving by and Amelia's taking one picture after another, but always keeping with the subject. It's almost like you've thrown out a rope, attached it to your camera lens, attached it to the horse or the car, and you're tracking it. Obviously it's an invisible rope, not a real one. Okay, and that's how you get that continuous nice shot of the car or anything else that's moving, but you get that nice blurry background because you're tracking with it. All make sense, Amelia?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, Amelia, so it's time for this week's challenge, and we're going to go into the garden in a second, and I'm going to burst a water balloon above my head. Thanks for that. So what shutter speed are you going to choose?
500.
Okay, and that's a fast one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, another tip when you're doing this kind of photography, and do try this at home, maybe not above your head, but maybe just exploding a water balloon or anything fast moving. And that tip is to go into something called continuous shoot mode or burst mode. So on screen now, I'm going to show you what that symbol might look like and where you might find it on your camera. And once your camera is in that mode, it will take one picture after another very, very quickly and increase the opportunity for you to capture that motion whilst using a fast shutter speed. So Amelia, are you ready?
Yes.
I'm not sure I am, but let's go anyway. So here are the results using shutter priority, 500th of a second on continuous shoot mode, and a very wet Ian. Well done, Amelia, great job. Okay, so that's it for this week, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. Join us next week when we'll be talking about ISO.
What's that?
Exactly, Amelia. So if you have liked the video, do give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that all important bell icon so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.